most people know Flashtalking as the dynamic creative guys, and certainly that has been the history of the company going back well before I became CEO in 2015. But when I came on 6 years ago, the mandate from the board was to diversify the company and the revenue, and specifically to be a player in the primary ad serving space. That is to say, to be able to compete with DoubleClick for clients to use Flashtalking as its primary ad server across all formats and as the system of record, if you will, for counting and delivering their ads. At the time, going back to 2015, it was clear that just having dynamic creative at the heart of the platform was not going to be sufficient to have clients want to move off of DoubleClick. And so we realized that better data was going to be the key to enhancing the offering. And so we did some acquisitions in 2015 of a cookieless technology and of a multi-touch attribution and advanced creative analytics platform, and incorporated those into the ad server. And so that bundle of capabilities, primary ad serving, dynamic creative, cookieless tracking, and advanced analytics had been the core bundle of capabilities that have driven the growth of Flashtalking over the last few years. Of course, as the company has grown and evolved, we've added to those capabilities pretty significantly. Most recently with the acquisition of Protected Media in March of this year, which has given us a full MRC accredited verification suite for fraud detection, brand safety, and viewability. All things that make complete sense in the context of a media independent ad serving platform, right? Since we're the last ad serving platform of global scale and multi-formats that are independent of any media buying platform, we're not owned by Google or owned by Amazon, we're in a unique position to also be able to comment on the quality of the inventory. And so rolling that capability in was a big step forward for us. I mentioned in 2015, we bought the cookieless tracking technology. As we barreled forward the last 2 years toward cookies going away, which we know has now been pushed out, we built a whole suite of identity capabilities around that cookieless tech. So that's another big part of the Flashtalking offering.
So John, congratulations on the sale to Mediaocean and the value that you and your team have created. Why Mediaocean? What's the opportunity? Where does Flashtalking, where is it going to sit in Mediaocean, and how does this change the Mediaocean offering and your offering for that matter?
Well, if folks are familiar with Mediaocean, they probably know the flagship market-facing product of Prisma, which is the buyer workflow software for digital owned by Mediaocean. At its heart, Mediaocean provides a suite of tools for ad agencies to be able to manage the planning, buying, and the billing of media across both traditional media channels as well as digital. So if you kind of think about it, Mediaocean plays at the beginning of the process in terms of the planning and managing the buying workflow. And then they come in at the end with the billing and reconciliation of the publisher invoices. But traditionally, they haven't had a lot in the middle of that process. Last year, they acquired 4C, which is a social buying platform. And so they added the capability to be able to actually buy in what they refer to as the closed ecosystems, the walled gardens. Acquiring Flashtalking and adding that now gives Mediaocean a full end-to-end capability for managing digital, including the development of the creative assets, the verification, the campaign management and setup, the tracking, the advanced analytics. And so there's a complete end-to-end system, if you will, for being the system of record for managing a client's campaign, all the way from budget allocation and planning through billing with all the steps in between, with the notable exception of programmatic buying, which Mediaocean does not support. But through our APIs at Flashtalking, APIs into DV360, into the trade desk, and into MediaMath, advertisers can also integrate all of their data and all of their processes for the programmatic buying process into Mediaocean and Flashtalking. So it's sort of one of those natural fits, right? There's virtually no conflicts, but the pieces are completely complementary, and sets Mediaocean up now to be that end-to-end system of record, and independent ad tech that is not at all committed to or controlled by the walled gardens. And it's something we believe that advertisers really need in today's ecosystem, since Google, Facebook, Amazon are such dominant forces. Advertisers need their own ad tech system with some weight and scale, and importantly, independence to be able to manage across all of those environments.
And John, finally, you've been around the block in the ad tech world in various leadership positions. It must be a very exciting day, and to me, it's an exciting time in our industry in terms of value creation deals. Like, why is now such an exciting time? Is it a bubble? Is it real? What's your perspective?
Yeah, I don't believe that it's a bubble, Andy. I think what happened, there was sort of a first stage of ad tech IPOs. And that first stage had some companies going public that were probably not ready to be public companies. They weren't profitable. They didn't have scale. And so there were, these failed IPOs of ad tech companies that for a while, sort of gave ad tech a bad reputation in investor circles. I think all of that changed with the success of the trade desk, with the success of LiveRamp, and some other very, very successful ad tech companies that were built on solid business fundamentals. And with that, investors began to see that ad tech was a good investment as long as you're investing in good companies, companies that had solid long-term business models, that had a history of profitability, and who were fulfilling a unique and necessary place in the ecosystem that was defensible. And so all of a sudden, with the advent of the success of the trade desk and a few others, that's paved the way for other healthy ad tech companies to successfully get out on the public markets. And in investor circles, success begets more success. And so money is following those initial successful IPOs and enabling companies like Viant and Pubmatic and so forth to get out on the public markets and to operate successfully. That all presents a backdrop, if you will, for our deal with Mediaocean, where we are now the largest independent ad tech company. We're larger than any of those companies, save the trade desk, in terms of revenue and definitely in terms of profitability. Mediaocean has a history of being profitable every year since its inception as Donovan Data Systems back in 1967, if you can believe that. And likewise, Flashtalking has been profitable every single year of its existence since its launch in 2001. And so putting these companies together with that kind of track record really sets us up at some point in the near future for the potential, at least, of successfully joining those other companies on the public markets.